And I believe we are live. So, yeah. And if one of y'all can be so kind as to share the feed to the Texas Freemasons Facebook page, that would be greatly appreciated, because that's where we'll get the largest audience. All right, everybody, welcome to the annual Trinity York Rite College Candidate Forum for the gentlemen that have made themselves available for the progressive lines in the Grand Chapter of Texas and the Grand Council of Texas. And we have 4 candidates with us tonight, 2 for each body. And the candidates, the open position for Grand Chapter is the Right Excellent Grand Scribe. We have 2 companions, Aaron Wayne Tazinski, who is a past high priest of Richmond 467, and Larry Joe Jones, who is a past high priest of Dallas 47. For the office of Right Illustrious Grand Principal Conductor of the Work for the Most Illustrious Grand Council of Royal and Select Masters of Texas, we have Zachary Charles Haston, past TIM of Arlington 314, and Casey Lee Maxwell, past TIM of Port Neches 413. And you guys can Rochambeau or fight for it. I figured what we could probably do is go alphabetical. And last year we did all the chapter guys first, all the questions, and then all the council guys. That was not what we're going to do. We're going to treat y'all all equally because y'all are all trying to enter into the bottom of the line here. And so I'll invite the gentleman from the Grand Chapter first. Aaron, let's have you come up and answer the first question. And each of you will get a chance to. Yeah. See, because you always get picked kind of towards the end.
I'm used to that.
You start with T, so
that's not a problem.
But so for the viewers, the candidates were offered 3 pre-written questions and then given some examples of some floor questions that they might be asked. Each of you will have the opportunity to answer the pre-written questions. And the first question is, what 2 ideas and or changes would you like to implement during your tenure as a Grand Officer and why?
I'm not so sure that changes, I would use the word improvement. In a similar manner to what I did or what we did in last year for Grand Council, I actually think there's 3 areas that can be improved upon. One is fraternal relations, not just with regular chapters, but then also chapters and the other related bodies. The second thing would be community involvement, is being able to get out into the community. Why are they relevant? Which is something that we were successful in last year. And finally would be esoteric proficiency, both in opening and closing, and then also trying to do degree work. So those are the 3 areas that I would primarily concentrate on should be given the opportunity to serve the companions of Texas again. Thank you.
All right, Joe, I will invite you to take the stand, as it were.
Thank you.
Same question applies. What 2 changes and or improvements would you like to implement during your tenure as a Grand Officer?
I would agree with what Aaron said about changes. I think we do need to make some improvements. I'm with him on the esoteric. I would like to see some kind of program where our companions who show proficiency in esoteric have something, either be a lapel pin, something of that nature, to recognize them for the hard work and dedication that they put forth in the ritual. I think we need to do a better job of getting out of our chapter rooms into our Blue Lodges. If you go on the Grand Chapter website, there's several short talks that the Grand Chapter provides for you to get out and make yourself known in the Blue Lodges to try to get some more members. Another thing I think is we've got to improve including family in our activities. Whether you have a chapter picnic, whether you have a district picnic, where you invite the chapters from your districts to bring their families and get families involved. Masons like family involvement, and I think if you can get that out get that on social media where other Masons who are not members seeing that aspect of the chapter, that it might draw them into the chapter for something they'd like to be involved in. Thank you, sir.
I'll invite Casey to come up. Same question. What two changes and or improvements would you like to implement?
All right. I'd like to start off with the why. And the why is I believe that everything we do should be to help improve our companions and our councils. So the why that I've found is, as I've traveled around this year, talking to different bodies, the main things that they have as problems is membership and communication. I think the answer for communication for the council is right under our nose from the success that we've had from the monthly newsletters from our Grand Commandery and our Grand Chapter. Rolling out something like that into our Grand Council is a way to communicate with our companions and provide them with a little bit of information that they can get at almost no cost to our council, our Grand Council. As far as membership, I'd actually challenge that we don't have a membership problem. We have a membership retention problem and an inability to engage our members. So I would like to work with the other grand officers, if I were to be elected, to develop almost like an officer leadership program for our York Rite. I think that not everybody that serves as an officer in the York Rite serves as an officer in the Blue Lodge. So they've never been to the leadership training that the Blue Lodge officers get. And I believe that if we were to develop a training program like that, it'll not only help with retention, it'll help teach them programs to help involve their members. My first year as TIM for Port Neches, we implemented a little program where we just made sure to have activity, some kind of talk, something educational at our chapter and council meetings. And it grew legs, it continued on. And the next 2 years, Port Neches Council actually won the Grand Council Traveling Award for Excellence because we had such good improvement in our population. So I think those are the two ideas that I would like to see rolled out if I'm elected. Thank you.
Companion Zach. That was Companion Casey. Now we're inviting Companion Zach to answer the same question.
So I think we're going to hear a little bit of a theme here that we've heard. I'm going to start off with ritual and ritual proficiency. If you just go to a meeting and they open it with books and they don't ever do degrees, you lose a lot of the heart and soul of York Rite. York Rite, these degrees are phenomenal. Everyone enjoys the degrees. I'd like to get more member participation from the councils on actually doing their own degrees. And we can help out with that quite a bit. We've got a traveling group of people, over a dozen guys that go around and put festivals on all over the state. They do an absolutely superb job, but councils are starting to depend upon that to bring in all their members as opposed to doing it themselves. I think that we could coordinate, get a calendar going of different degrees around the state and get those same guys that are willing to help out at a festival can go help out in the local chapters, doing it in their building, helping get them motivated. Because when you come in and you start doing these degrees, you really buy into it. You learn a lot more. You get into and active in your meetings. Another thing I'd like to do is statewide, some parts of the state are doing very well. Up here in Tarrant County, York Rite is flourishing and brings in more people than Scottish Rite. But if you go to other parts of the state, it's the reverse. I think we can look at that. We can look at where we're making Masons in Texas and see and compare that with where we're making York Rite Masons and give those areas a little extra love, a little extra attention. The grand officers, the traveling degree team can go down and do a lot in those areas. So those are two things I'd like to work on.
I received a reminder to directly introduce each candidate as they get up to the microphone as viewers tune in after the start. So I'll make sure to introduce the full name of each person. We'll move on to the second pre-written question. And the second pre-written question is, what prior leadership experience do you have that helps qualify you to serve as a Grand Officer? I'm going to change around the order just so that we don't have the same order every time. Companion Joe, if you would come up and give it a shot here. This is Companion Joe Jones, past high priest of Dallas chapter.
As my other two companions down here who work in the law enforcement field, I'll equate to leadership being this. I worked in homicide. So when you get a homicide and you're the lead detective, then you are responsible for that investigation. As the Grand High Priest is responsible for the chapter. The key to leadership is surround yourself with capable people. So in an investigative deal, you get detectives you know are capable of doing the things. One goes to the crime scene, one canvasses, one interviews witnesses. It's the same thing with the Grand Chapter. You're able to delegate your leadership style to these individuals that you find capable. But in the end, it all comes back to you. If you're the leader of the investigation or you're the leader of the grand body, then in the end, you have to take responsibility for the leadership that you put forth. But the key is delegating to worthy companions who can get the job done, but in turn, making sure that they do get it in turn. Thank you.
Now we'll call on Companion Aaron Tazinski to answer that question. What prior leadership experience do you have that helps qualify you to serve as a Grand Officer?
Most of you in this room have known me for quite a while. I don't like talking about myself, but I will in this to answer your question. As far as leadership ability, I will answer that both in a Masonic fashion and a professional fashion, of which I will go first. I have served in public safety for 34 years. I was assistant chief of a fire department. I have been the chief deputy of a law enforcement agency and will be the commanding officer of a group of people in downtown Houston of over 100 deputies and 130 civilians. Masonically, I have been a past master 6 times of 6 different lodges. I've been a district deputy 7 times. I have been a grand officer for both the chapter and the Companions of Texas blessed me with the opportunity to serve them as the Grand Master of the Grand Council last year. I wholeheartedly agree with my good friend Joe Jones as far as the delegation of things and having the right people in the right places on your administration. To my point, I will point out that both candidates for the Grand Council this year were Grand Officers of the Grand Council for me last year, with Zach being the Grand Chaplain and Casey being the Grand Steward. So I had good people, as you see. I wholeheartedly believe that servant leadership is the way to lead men and women. Of course, in the Masons, it's for men, where you use your position to help other people to be successful. You give them the keys to success. You show them the path. You help foster them to give them the ideas, the tools, the things that they need to be successful. So you do that by getting out and being with the people. You do not administrate by email. You don't just sit there. You don't wear special apron. You don't have this title. You get out and you go and be with the people. I have shown that ability to do that last year and every year that I have held a position of some kind to that effect, and I would ask for that consideration. Thank you.
I will now call on Companion Zach Haston. And as a reminder, Zach is a past TIM of Arlington 314.
Thank you. I got to start off, first of all, just by saying, like many of the other people and the other candidates, I've served in the East and just almost everybody. Blue Lodge, Chapter Council, Commandery, Tarrant County York Rite Association, Trinity York Rite College, AMD, ACON. I've served in the East in quite a few things. And in each time I'm doing so, I'm looking to improve something. I've done quite a bit in Blue Lodge and organized all of our degrees set up along with a lot of public service in that regard. Probably these days, what I'm spending the majority of my time on is the home and school, Masonic Children and Family Services of Texas. I'm the president of the board of directors for that. And that's a $5 million a year charity. So we have a number of different employees working to pull off each of the different programs that we are doing in that regard. And as I come in, I'm moving with a purpose and changing what we're doing and changing the direction and leading in that regard. I absolutely agree with getting good people on board and giving them the task. I agree absolutely with bringing good people up and empowering them because that's how we get leaders for the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Companion Zach. I'll now call on Companion Casey Maxwell, past TIM of Port Neches 413. Same question.
As they said, you can hear a lot of the same stuff. I've also served just about everybody that I belong in the East. Actually, currently sitting worshipful master of my second lodge, Tyrion 187, and I'm sitting potentate of El Minor Shrine in Galveston, Texas right now. I've also been blessed with being able to serve 4 of the last 6 Grand Council Grand Masters, either as part of their planning teams or an officer for them or both. I've served as the Chief of Staff for past Grand Commander Chance Chapman for his year, and also as Assistant State Coordinator for past Grand Master Tommy Chapman, his last term in office. So I've got quite a bit of experience on the Masonic Grand Lodge level, Grand Chapter, Grand Council levels. But I think kind of like what Companion Tazinski mentioned, my profession is where I've gotten the bulk of my leadership training. I've been in law enforcement for 20 years. I've spent the last 8 years as part of the command staff for my department. Currently serve in administration where I deal with developing officers, I deal with budgeting, I deal with long-term strategic planning, things that are important when it comes to running an organization. I think that the training that I've received, I'm a graduate of the Leadership Command College, which is put on by the state of Texas, similar to the FBI National Academy, which Companion Tazinski's graduated from. It's an excellent executive development program that was very strenuous and taught me a lot about leadership, taught me a lot about how to help people. And you absolutely have to empower the people to help themselves, help their own councils to help grow by giving them the tools to do that. So that's my experience. Thank you.
Thank you. The third pre-written question that we made available to the candidates for tonight's discussion is, what inspired you to make yourself available for office, and why do you want to serve? And I'll call on Companion Aaron Tazinski, past High Priest of Richmond 467.
As I read the question when it was given to me by email, I found it to be a very interesting question and just some self-reflection, actually. There are 3 times that I can think of in my personal life that have given me this intrinsic desire to serve humanity. The first came from the Bible that was on that altar. I mean, we're closed now, so But I remember going to Sunday school and then later on to Mass, where you would talk about humanity, empathy, compassion, understanding, love, all these different human qualities that you have this, for me, an intrinsic desire to better humanity, to serve your fellow man. That later progressed into life, into adult life through the Boy Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout. I was fortunate enough to grow up in an environment where I was around policemen and firemen and religious officials that I think really helped set my moral compass and my professional and personal development. That later on went into the fire service, where everybody loves a fireman, right? Y'all are supposed to laugh and smile. I don't see a lot of laughing or smiling, but the fire service that taught me a lot about life and just how precious it really is, because of loss of life, loss of property, those kind of things, and then that migrated into law enforcement, to which I've just completed my 30th year. So I've always had a desire to serve. Why do I want to serve the Companions of Texas again? Is I wholeheartedly want the best for the Companions. In today's society, we are competing for men's time. Okay? Men have children. Those children are involved in a plethora or myriad of sporting events and other outside detractions. So we're competing for their time. We want to provide them with substance. We want to provide them with something that they want to spend their time away from their loved ones, their family, their friends, significant others, whoever, to come here and be with us for personal development. We need to have some material for them to do. No one wants to go to another meeting where we just do nothing. We don't have the time for that. Your family doesn't have time for that, and that's really not fair to them. Okay, so I believe that I possess certain qualities that I have exhibited in the past, according to the Companions, from going around the 53,000 miles that I traveled last year for the Grand Council and listened to the Companions. What do you want? What can I do? What can the Grand Council do to help you? And that is exactly what I would do if I was given the opportunity by the Companions again to serve them, is what can I do for them? It's not the errand show. I want to know what I can do for them, what I can do for their chapter, and put together a team that can do that, and move forward. Thank you.
I'll now call on Companion Joe Jones, past High Priest of Dallas 47. What inspired you to make yourself available for office, and why do you want to serve?
The York Rite was one of the last major appendant bodies that I joined. And when I did, going through the degrees and the orders, I found my home. So the York Rite holds a special place in my heart. I'm still a member of the other bodies. When my youngest son became a Master Mason, I told him, I'll get you through the York Rite, I'll pay your way. Everything else you're going to join on your own. I'm involved, I have a leadership role in Texas Demolay Association. We see these young men come through, and a lot of them are single family homes, and they're looking for mentors. So we in the Texas Demolay Association get them up to a point. And then if you'll look, the majority of the individual or the young men that come through, we get them through their Blue Lodge. They're drawn to the York Rite because the York Rite goes more along the lines with some of the Demolay stuff. I want this to continue for them. I've got 2 grandsons. I want these organizations to be around. I want to try to come up with some ideas to grow our membership, to keep this legacy going. I want it to stick around so the future generations can find out the right. I believe by surrounding yourself with the proper people and taking a leadership style of being present but not dictatorial. Letting other people get involved will draw more people into wanting to be in the leadership positions within the chapter. And so that's what inspired me, is the young people coming up and the companions that just go to meetings to try to get them more involved in their local chapters, and maybe at one point thinking they might want to run for a grand office.
Thank you, Companion Joe. I'll now call on Companion Casey Maxwell, past TIM of Port Neches 413. What inspired you to make yourself available for office, and why do you want to serve?
Thank you. So what inspires me is actually some of the people in this room. You may not know it. You know, I've known some of y'all for quite a long time. I've known some of y'all for a little bit of time, but a lot of y'all have inspired me. The Masons that have taken the time to take someone under their wing, to give them a little bit of guidance, that have been around for a while and know the ropes and see something in someone and say, I want to make this person better. That's what's inspiring to me. That's what brought me to want to serve the companions, because I want to be able to have that same ability to take someone under my wing and say, hey, I see something in this new guy, and I want to push them to be better. The reason that I want to serve is because it's who I am. I've always been a servant. From the time when I was a kid, a young teenager, I would volunteer in my church. I would volunteer at the school that my mother taught at during the summertime. That's the way I was raised. As an adult, I volunteered in numerous different non-Masonic bodies that I've served on the boards. I've served as the presidents of these different organizations, not for anything, but just because they needed someone to help serve. It's something that I've always done. It's what led me into police work. My original profession was going to be computer drafting and design. That's what I went to college for my first time. Got out, said I just wasn't what I wanted to do. Went back to the police academy, started a career in police work. 20 years later, here I am, still loving it every day. I'm a servant at heart, and I want to be able to serve the companions and make it, even if it's just an iota better. I feel that I have something to offer, and I want to leave a mark on someone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Companion Casey. I now call on Companion Zach Haston, past TIM of Arlington 314. What inspired you to make yourself available for office, and why do you want to serve?
Thank you, Companion. First of all, I have to state something that's fairly obvious and applies to everybody in the room, but I just got to state it, and that is that I absolutely love the York Rite. I love the degrees. I love the companions and the fellowship that we have here. These degrees are absolutely phenomenal, and the ritual is what binds us together, along with the fact that some of the very best men in Masonry are in the York Rite. So, I mean, I too started off fairly early coming into the York Rite, and I've just taken hold of it ever since. Loved every minute of it. Specifically for this office, there's a number of things that I think I can offer, which are a little bit different bent. I analyze things a little bit differently. I'd like to get a hold of some of the data and look at where we're doing what in the state, get a characteristic for the York Rite Masons, what makes them, take a look at, again, where we're making Masons, where we're making York Rite Masons or not, and analyze from that perspective. But additionally, the organization and the setting up of moving things in a direction is something that I tend to do and take hold of and very much enjoy. I think I can help out the York Rite in Texas, and specifically the council. The council degrees are something that, kind of like in the Blue Lodge, the Fellowcraft degree is between the entered apprentice and the master's degree, and some people zip on past it. There's a little bit of that in council, in that We've got the Royal Arch before it, and we got the commandery orders after. But there's a lot of good stuff in the council degrees, and I think we should focus on that and bring it out and embellish it and really bring it to life. I mean, everyone enjoys watching a Hasher's Dilemma and all those kinds of things, but there's some important lessons there that apply to all of us. And I can't go on too much of it on a live stream, but but I will simply say that I'd like to focus on that part of the ritual, the esoteric part, and the lessons, along with improving ritual and looking at what all we're doing. Thank you very much.
So those were the three pre-written questions that we provided to the candidates, and this brings us into the open question portion of this candidate forum. Gentlemen, you are invited to come up to the lectern. We'll have you come up to the lectern and so that you can speak into the mic and ask a question. It can be for all four of the candidates. It can be for candidates for one specific body. If you need to, you can ask a question for one specific candidate, but we urge you to give the guys a fair shake. So try to keep it either broad spectrum for the four candidates or for a specific body. That way they can balance their time. Did you have one? All right, come on up. Companion Knight Corey Harris coming up to the lectern. No more softballs.
Companions, first of all, thank you for your willingness to serve. The thing I really like you to elaborate, all four of you to elaborate on, is the value proposition. All of us are active York Rite Masons, but there's a value proposition that you get that inspires you to serve. So explain to us, what's your value proposition from the chapter, your value proposition from the council, and how do you package that and relay that to somebody who is a Blue Lodge Mason and only a Blue Lodge Mason, where if they only knew this, there's no doubt they would be an active Scottish Rite Mason or York Rite Mason. Well, we all serve a lot of different things, but hell, they could be a Scottish Rite Mason too. But so for the chapter, what's your value proposition for the chapter? That if you could package that and relay that to a Blue Mason, they couldn't help but join the council. And what's your value proposition for the chapter? That if a Blue Mason knew that, there's no way they could not be a member of the Royal Arch.
And then gents, as you go up to the lectern, since we're on the live stream and people may be tuning in, just go ahead and announce your name and chapter. Just like
My name's Aaron, and according to my good friend Joe, you're older than me. I guess that was how you determined that I was going to go first. Well, Corey, where to go? To answer your question, the first thing that immediately comes to mind as to why I believe that a Blue Lodge only Mason would be interested, or as you call a value proposition, would be to complete their experience as a Blue Lodge Mason. They do not get the full story when they are raised. And obviously this is live stream, so it's going to be kind of cryptic for me to answer that. But those of you that were around last year when I was Grand Master of the Grand Council, I made a point to provide 6 different parts that I would mention to the people where the companions would go back and be an ambassador to their Blue Lodges and basically recruit, because as you know, in the York Rite, we are not bound by the prohibition. You cannot recruit. In fact, our livelihood depends on the Blue Lodge Masons. So it's the completion of their story. While again, I can't really go into a whole lot of that being live stream, I think that all the companions in here know exactly what I'm talking about as far as that. But I believe what has been successful for me, to my point, is that the several times I have been a worshipful master of several Masonic lodges, we have had a Masonic education night where we have invited the appendant bodies to come and give a, quote, infomercial as much as they can on why Blue Lodge Masons would want to invest their time and go through especially the York Rite degrees, most of which is if they learn stuff from their first 3 degrees in masonry, imagine the additional light that they will learn in the 4 chapter degrees and the 2 for the council, although there is a third one, as you know, the super excellent masters. So it's the self education, the betterment of their Masonic career, and the further of the story. So that would be where I would go with that, sir, without being able to go into other detail. Thank you.
Joe Jones, past high priest of Dallas, chapter 47. My value statement is kind of like Aaron's. When you go into these blue lodges, there's certain lessons that they have not learned, that only through the York Rite can you complete your Masonic journey regarding the temple and other things like that. One of the big value things is the camaraderie that we have in the York Rite. I'll give you an example is Miles Sharon. He belonged to a different Blue Lodge. We were in Scottish Rite Shrine, worked in the same building, and really didn't know each other until I got into York Rite. And that's when, because of him, I got into the York Rite. We became good friends. And it's the same thing. I'm sure that all your chapters and councils, the group of people that you go to chapter and council with is a tight group. It can say, same thing can be said at Blue Lodge, but when you go to Grand Chapter, Grand Council, we're a smaller group than going to Grand Lodge. And so you see the people there, you develop friends from one end of the state to the other that you're going to see on a regular basis, and you've got enough time to sit down and converse with these individuals and build stronger friendships. So my value statement is finishing your work, making sure you have the true understanding of where your Masonic journey leads you, and then the friendships that you develop within the York Rite that you can continue to carry until you are no more. So that would be my value statement.
Thank you for being Joe. And Corey, just to clarify, that was a chapter specific question? It was not. It was not. Okay. Would either would the council companions like to? I went first last time. All right. Fair enough. Y'all are very civil. I like that this is a self-organizing congregation.
Zachary Haston, past TIM of Arlington 314. I'm going to have to echo a lot of what you just heard. The Blue Lodge degrees are outstanding degrees, but there is a lot added by the York Rite degrees. Everyone in this room certainly knows, if you think about the Mark Master's degree, the lessons included there are super important lessons for our daily life. The past master's degree is one none of us will ever forget. The most excellent master, Royal Arch. When you get to the council, the soliloquy of the Royal Master's degree, the lessons imparted, which apply to all of us, if we think about it, in the Select Master's degree, those are all very important lessons for us and for our daily lives and for our character. If you aren't going to get that, you are absolutely missing out on a lot of very good masonry. Again, I would also like to say one more time, the fellowship and the companions in the York Rite Masons are the most active Masons in the state, the most involved, the most into it that we have. You will make friends here without question across the state, and it's just a great group. Thank you very much.
Casey Maxwell, past TIM of Fort Natchez, Council number 413. And by the time the first two finished talking, I figured I might as well go last because everything's already been said. And you talk about us being self-organized. We are all friends in here. These four gentlemen that have, or these three gentlemen that have made themselves available with myself, these are my friends. So we can be, sit over here and have a good time and be cordial and make this go as best we can. And that is truly we all know the lessons. The lessons are something that you won't forget. The hidden lessons within the lessons that you can use in your personal life. Those are things that anytime you sit there and watch, if you reflect upon yourself, you're going to find ways that the lessons can affect you in a daily manner. It's something very special if you dig in and really kind of think about what you're taught. But the friendships are, I would almost just say the family members that I've gained being a York Rite Mason are second to none. Most of the men that I've developed friendships with are like family. They're like family to my wife, my kids. It's not just some guys that I go and meet with once a month, open a degree, whatever. It's people that I enjoy spending time with. It's a family that is unlike any other, and that's what I would sell to them if I was trying to get them to join. Thank you.
Double check my mic here. All right. I have a couple of people who I think are lined up for questions. Companion Knight John Witch.
Companions, thank you for making yourself available. Not everybody has the panache to do that. There's a lot of good leaders and a lot of great men, but not everybody has the strength to get out in front and try to get in that leadership position. So I got two questions. They're two-part. The first one is, the candidates for York Rite come from the Blue Lodge. Blue Lodge goes through their investigation to bring in a candidate and to get him into the degrees of EA, Fellowcraft, and Master Mason. But it starts at the petition. So what I've seen and what I've experienced in York Rite is that it's difficult to get a Blue Lodge brother to come in and look at Scottish Rite or York Rite. But what I see too is that we got Blue Lodges that are just adding numbers. They're just adding membership because they're trying to get dues paying brothers. I don't see in the petitioning, or in my experience, I don't recall that I was investigated to go into the York Rite. And so we have some Blue Lodge brothers who are somewhat questionable. And they pass the petition, they get initiated, they become Masons. But from there, coming into York Rite, what do you see that could be done maybe better on doing the investigation of bringing in a Blue Lodge Mason into the York Rite? And then from that, there are men who are exceptional, and with many of them right here in this room, exceptional ritualists. There are some that are not as good. I'm one of those. I struggle with the ritual. I try, and I have a passion to do it right, but I'm still a work in progress myself. But then there are those men who are more on the social side. They love the friendship and the brotherly love that the bodies, especially the York Rite bodies, does present. And because it adds the extra education of, what happened to Hiram, right? And where do we go from there? But how do we blend? And what are your thoughts about getting the right brother to come into the York Rite, and then from there, getting him to figuring out how do you get the ritual side of it and the social side of it to blend together so that you have a complete companion that's going to benefit us in the York Rite?
Let's start with the gents from council and go from there. Work our way A, B, B, A, so forth.
Casey Maxwell, past TIM of Port Neches Council number 413. Those are two excellent questions. The first one being, what do we do to help keep questionable members out of our ranks in the chapter and council? As we know, they're proposed, they're voted on by what we know about them and their membership with their Blue Lodge. They're proposed by someone that's willing to sign for them, and we're basically leaving ourselves to be guardians of the West Gate for our chapters and councils. It could be on a questionable brother's signature that another questionable brother gets in, even more questionable. So while there is nothing in place at the moment, I think it's a great thing to explore an actual investigation committee for chapter and council. I think it's completely legitimate. That's something that we should address. I don't have a direct answer for it, but it's definitely something that I'll ponder on and pass on. And hopefully our current Grand Council and chapter companions are watching, and maybe they'll also take that on as a challenge for the upcoming year. What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
The ritual side of it and the social side.
Blending the two. I mean, like you said, some people are just born ritualists. Some people are born to be social. They get into these organizations for different reasons. Some just want the camaraderie. They want the brotherhood. The ritualists, they love the challenge of learning something new and sharing that with everybody else. I think the way to blend that is through that leadership training, giving a little bit development with the companions on how to, if you're a social person, it will give you a little bit of more experience on how to be a leader, maybe take on some challenges of learning a little bit of the esoteric work. We don't all have to know how to confer every degree, but if you could learn a small part in 1 or 2 degrees, maybe you'll learn, oh, that wasn't so bad. I want to take on another part. As far as those esoteric leaders in our different councils and chapters, we've got to empower them to go out and be more social with the others, get them to want to encourage the other members to learn that little piece, learn that one little part, because that's honestly how I started out. I was fortunate to have some very, very good ritualists and past grand officers in my home chapter and council. They did all the big parts, but they pushed us to learn one little part here, one little part there. They took on that, and because I was a social guy when I started out, but now I love the ritual. It's something that I challenge myself for, and I think if you could get those guys to work together, you have that blend that you're looking for. Thank you.
Zach Haston from Arlington. That is absolutely correct on the part 2 of that, on the blending. When someone comes in, you shouldn't be giving them a huge major part. We've got other brothers, other companions who know the lecture and knows how to confer and stuff. When someone comes in, if they're a more social part, there are lots of little parts that they can take and grow from there. That is absolutely the right way to do that. And the social part is very much important as well. So we don't want to diminish either of those and let them do what they want to do and bring them along. As far as the first part of the question, really it's up to our Blue Lodge to guard our West Gate, ultimately. If one lodge brings in a brother that they shouldn't, that brother can hop around and join multiple other lodges from there. And if people haven't seen him in bad situations, they can recommend him to York Rite. That initial investigation done in the Blue Lodge, we need to take very seriously. We've had a lot of problems in the state with individuals getting in that probably shouldn't have. We've opened it up to allow felons in, and that's caused a lot of problems. I know the theory behind that is that if they had something small, like a DWI 20 years ago, and they've been all good since then and they've changed, I get all that. That's not where we're getting the problems. We're getting the problems on people being put in because people want numbers and because people are hungry to get anybody in. It's causing problems. And when you let the quality of the membership decline, it hurts the whole body enormously. We can cause a lot more damage with a white ball than with a black sometimes. But as far as the York Rite goes, we've seen them in Blue Lodge. Since we've seen them in Blue Lodge, whenever you recommend someone, you need to know the person that you're recommending and not just be signing off on something. But I wouldn't necessarily start up a big Title V thing in York Rite. I think all that needs to be handled in the Blue Lodge. Thank you very much.
Joe Jones, Dallas, number 47. To the first part of it is nobody says you got to get the petition and vote on them right away. Invite them to come have dinner. Talk to them. Fill them out. If you've got some questions, they've got to have somebody that signed that petition. Go to them. We've got some question about this guy. If you get a hinky suspicion, there's all kinds of public data websites where you can run criminal histories on. So it's up to taking the word of the Blue Lodge, but if you have a question, then it becomes incumbent on you to find out why you have this lingering thought. So that's one thing. Invite them to dinner, get a feel for them. If you think you need to run a criminal history on them, do whatever. Talk to whoever they're signed their petition. If it comes from another lodge that you don't belong to, talk to the person that signed their petition. What can you tell me about him? Oh, I don't know. He's just new, and I'm just trying to get him in New York. And we need to go a little further than this. So it goes back to the petition. On the second part, I agree with these guys. Small parts. Because if you don't get people involved to learn the ritual, you will lose the ritual. If you've got all these guys that know the parts, and you get the social guys in here, they don't learn the parts, these guys start dying off, what are you left with? Now you're a social club. So you've got to get these guys in here, and you do have to balance it, and you don't have to push them into the deep end of the pool, but you've got to get them in and say, hey, here's a small part. I need you to take it. And we'll work on it each week. It's not a big, long part, but you've got to become involved in something. Because if we don't teach them the ritual and keep the ritual going, we will lose the ritual.
John, I find the questions that you ask are very intriguing. You and I have had many conversations about investigations, and as you know, for a great many years, I conducted background investigations, Masonic misconduct investigations for the Grand Lodge of Texas all over this great state. Having been in law enforcement for 30 years, having done interrogation interviews at the FBI National Academy, like Joe, conducting criminal investigations and also internal affairs. It's very interesting when you use the word investigation, because the investigation is only as good as the people who are doing the investigating. So I would posit this question to you, is that who is doing the investigation and what are the parameters? For Masonic investigations, the parameters are pretty strict. They are listed and delineated in the laws of the Grand Lodge of Texas under Articles 392 through 412. And it specifically says to some of my counterparts here, to their point, is that it's the Blue Lodge who is the lodge that they petition are the sole people to determine if this individual is good for Masonry. Okay? So a lot of times what I have found in doing these investigations for the Grand Lodge is that the investigations were poorly done. For instance, the 5 people who are listed on the Masonic petition, 2 of which, the top liners, have to be a member of that lodge, and as you know, the other 3 have to be Master Masons in good standing. You would be very surprised, sir, that at a particular warden's retreat in which I gave a lecture on background investigations, that out of 200 people, only 8% said that they actually contacted all 5 of the Masonic references, which is the very easiest source of information that you have to determine if this man is suitable for Masonry. So if the investigation team isn't qualified to do an investigation, or better yet, I love this, where worshipful masters appoint people to that committee to get them involved, but they have absolutely no idea on how to conduct an investigation. So while I believe that investigations should be comprehensive, in my personal opinion, yes, a criminal history should be run because you need to know what has occurred. But keep in mind that the laws of man, they change every year depending on what state that this individual has resided. In Texas, we're every 2 years, every odd year, as you know, the legislature changes. So the laws of man change. For instance, in 1975, it was a felony to have one marijuana cigarette. Many of the people in this room probably know what it is that I'm talking about. Okay, but now in today's society, especially in my county of Harris County, that's hardly even a citation. Okay, so you have individuals who base their opinion. Investigations are supposed to be objective and not subjective. As a quality investigator, you should make sure that your personal opinion, your own bias, should not be interjected into the findings of investigations. And unfortunately, it's been my experience, especially recently, where people's bias and their discriminatory practices, or also the defaming of people, have come into play. So that's the first thing that I would mention. Also, the York Rite goes on the fact that it's an appendant body. We are trusting that the two brothers who signed the chapter petition and the council petition are personally vouching for this individual based on their own observations that they themselves have seen in Blue Lodge. Hopefully, as Joe mentioned, over a number of years or a number of months. Many of you know, and you've probably seen this because there's decades of Masonic service in this room, where you've seen somebody come up to you and go, "Hey, Casey, this man needs one more signature on his petition so we can turn it in. Would you vouch for him even though you don't know him?" Which is interesting because on the petition itself, Form 26, it says that you have known Mr. Blank for X amount of years and X amount of months. Well, I would question you, sir, that if you just ask Casey to sign this petition 5 minutes before the drop of the gavel for the stated meeting, you are unable to answer X amount of years, which would be a 0, and X amount of months, which would be a 0. And actually, if there was a minute column off on the side, you probably couldn't even put a 1 or a 2. We've all seen that. We cannot deny that we've all seen that. So we need to really examine that. And yes, you are absolutely right, Zach. Title V is an enigma. The problem that you have with Title V is that the Grand West really does not comprehend Masonic disciplinary procedures. Okay, even the Civil Law Committee and jurisprudence can't seem to figure that out sometimes. Okay, so I'm just saying that that's a much bigger question than we could possibly answer in this small forum. But I do appreciate you raising that, absolutely. The second part to the question is when you get a new York Rite Mason, a companion who has just been exalted or has been hailed and greeted, okay, once they are in there, they literally, some chapters and councils hit them with a fire hose. They're like, you need to be the IPC. We need to move you right up there for the noble cause of being engaged. Well, they haven't matured any. They have no idea how to open and close, and now you've put them in a core officer position. They've had no chance to evolve, no chance to engage, to sit back and enjoy what they just went through. A lot of them go through a degree festival, which is stressful enough. I mean, it's an all-day thing. Because unfortunately, chapters and councils, a lot of them are no longer able to do their own degree work, which goes to my point about trying to improve esoteric proficiency. So these are all complicated things that really require a team approach, a holistic review, if you will. And in order to do that, it's a team thing. And unfortunately, it's going to take a number of years to migrate in that direction. So I hope I've answered that, maybe probably with a little bit more alacrity than you wanted. But I think that those two areas are very important to you because you raised those two questions. And certainly that is something that is a concern of many Masons across this great state. So thank you.
Thank you, gents. All right, we have time for one more question and a quick round of answers before I think we're all going to turn into pumpkins. Did you have one lined up? All right. Companion Knight Michael Cody II.
Thank you, Gabe. Companions, again, thank you all for your willingness to serve. I will try to keep this one pretty short and sweet. If you are elected, I firmly believe universally that everyone in any sort of fraternal leadership or professional leadership should plan your work and work your plan. So to what extent upon your election would you begin your planning and preparation, and what fields within the fraternity would you designate as priority?
But before I answer that, it's very important, and we've kind of touched on that today, but we haven't used these exact words. First, I am not running against my friend Larry Joe Jones. I am made myself available to serve the companions of Texas. Regardless of the outcome of this election, that man and these men will still be my friends. They have been and always will be. That's very important for us to get through to one another, because the term running has been used for a great many years, long before I got here. But as you know, we do not really talk about politics or religion because they're polarizing topics. So I want that to be crystal clear. So my name's Aaron. I don't need special titles. I don't need special aprons. Everybody in this room has heard me say my name is Aaron. I do not appreciate being called very illustrious or anything like that. My name is Aaron. So it's not about titles, it's about service. And I think I've made that pretty clear about that. You were asking, can you repeat what you said just a second ago?
Yes, sir. In terms of planning, if you were elected upon your election, when would your planning start, and what fields of planning would you deem as priority?
The planning would start immediately. Just like I did with Grand Council, there's several members here that were on the planning team for 2024. The planning starts immediately. You have a very finite amount of time. And one thing that I am very passionate of, and you can go back and look at my term during the Grand Council, is that you want to put people on your planning team that are very in tune with what is going on in the region. So I made an intentional purpose of picking people from various regions of the state. Because if you exclude them, then you're missing those areas. You don't have any ears on the ground. You have men on the ground to find out what is working and what is not working in those areas. You need that intelligence. You need those people. And I would argue that that's why you try to have effective district deputies when you do get into that office. You do want to have people who are on your team, not just in the planning phase, but also your grand officers who come from a myriad of professions, okay? Because as Dr. Haston has, I mean, we both have a doctorate, but he does more research concerning the items pertaining to Blue Lodge and the Grand Lodge of Texas, okay? He does a lot more of that than I have time to do. So if I want to get data related to that, if it's quantitative in nature, I'm going to go to that man because he has that knowledge, he has that access, he has those skill sets. For you do an excellent job with like Behind the Veil, the newsletter, an outstanding job, by the way. That is something that I think is very important in today's age, to keep the people engaged, especially younger Masons, not just in age, but in tenure. So you've got to be able to do that. And I would argue the way that you find that out The way you find out where those men are is that you get out of your house, you get in your pickup truck, and you drive and you go see the companions. You must get out and go and see them in their home chapters and their home councils. That's where you, as the effective leader, start to develop your networking and your resources. Where do I find these men if I get elected? Okay. Fortunately, I have a history of traveling across this great state for Masonic purposes. I have an enormous network upon which to draw from, but I'm constantly getting information of, hey, what is working out here in the valley down in McAllen? What is working over here in Port Neches and Beaumont, those kind of things? What is working and what is not working in El Paso? So you've got to employ those people who have a plethora of skill sets upon which you can develop this plan. And it's all evidence-based, right? You have to find out, what do the people want? Because it's like throwing darts at a dartboard. If you don't know what the companions want, what's the chances of you actually being able to hit that target? So the planning starts immediately. Thank you.
Joe Jones, Dallas chapter 47. I'll agree with what Aaron said. All these companions over here have made themselves available. Nobody's running against each other. We'll continue to be friends, and if Aaron gets elected, I will support him and make sure I can do all I can do that he succeeds. If I get elected, I'm sure he'll do the same thing for me. We want to see the body succeed, not necessarily the individual. The planning starts immediate. You've got to get things rolling. The fields of interest that we would focus on is the continued support of the TMRC. We've got to make sure that beautiful place out there is funded the way it should be. So we'll come up starting right out of the gate with possibly a fundraiser. We get an idea and get that in the books. The second one is ritual. We've got, in my opinion, people like all these guys that worked in the festivals this weekend, we don't have any way to recognize the hard work that the ritualists put in. So I would like to create either a medal, a lapel pin, or something to recognize the individuals that have shown proficiency in esoteric work. I also would like to push the social side of it, of, like I mentioned before, you can have a district-wide get-together for Dallas is in District 9. Get those council chapters together, find out what's working for them over a social event. Get ideas from each other. If it's working for them, it might work for you, it might not, and something that you've got may work for them. So the social aspect, esoteric, and making sure that we fund that TMRC and keep those things going. That would be the fields that I would focus on starting immediately and get together when we hit that fourth year. We've got people in place, we've got a plan in place, we know what we're doing. We can get out, we can visit the chapters, we can plug our plan and see if we can get some excitement from the chapters.
Zach Haston from Arlington. I got to agree with these gentlemen completely on this. On the council, we only have 2 years and then we're it. So planning has to start absolutely immediately. You gotta immediately start thinking about your planning team, about the district deputies. You've got to get all the people in place. As Aaron said, you've got to get key people from key locations around the state, people who know what's going on in those areas, because they're the ones who are going to help mold whatever you're doing to actually be effective. So you've got to start off right off the bat on the personnel. And then once you start, probably still at the same time, you're going to start working on your plan for your year, because in the council, like I said, we only got 2 years to plan here. So I'll be working, if I get the opportunity to, on some plans to help improve the ritual, the esoteric work, and how best to do that and organize that around the state. But yeah, it's you got to hit the ground running as soon as the election's over. Thank you.
Casey Maxwell, Port Neches Council. I think I can be honest for all of us that are up here, the planning's already started. I mean, we're just the only person on the planning team. But we all have our ideas. We all have things that we want to work on and see happen. And like you said, you got to work your plan. Obviously, one of the things I touched on early was developing some kind of officer leadership training for the chapter or for the council that I would hope could become a York Rite leadership training, not just a council leadership training, something that both bodies could take advantage of. And I actually already have plans, a lot of the footwork done on that on my phone. And the execution of that, to me, would have to begin immediately by speaking to the Grand Master and the Deputy Grand Master and seeing if they would be willing to start rolling out some of these programs in their years. So it has a little bit of time to grow, because you've got to have continuity between plans. If you're planning for a 1 year event, 1 year program, then it's over in 1 year. But if you can make a plan, convince others that this is a plan that I think would work and benefit everyone, and not be ashamed to let another person roll that out and let it start growing, and then bring it in a little bit heavier the next year. Whenever your turn to serve, you continue on the program, and you work with the companions that are behind you to continue to grow it beyond your years. That's where you leave your mark. I think you absolutely have to start the plan, but I think you have to start it before your year. You have to let it grow, or else it just dies on the vine the second you're out of office. Thank you.
All right, for the candidates, thank you very much for coming and visiting Trinity College in this open forum. We know, and that several of you have traveled quite far, so thank you. And not to knock Zach, I know we're in your backyard, but so we just appreciate each person being here, and the fact that we have all four of the candidates here is just a really nice sort of thing, because it demonstrates y'all have a sense of commitment and dedication to this cause. For the companions watching at home, we want to remind you the candidates available for the Right Excellent Grand Scribe of the Most Excellent Grand Royal Arch Chapter of Texas are companion Aaron Wayne Tazinski, past high priest of Richmond 467, and companion Larry Joe Jones, past high priest of Dallas 47. The candidates making themselves available for Right Illustrious Grand Principal Conductor of the Work of the Most Illustrious Grand Council of Royal and Select Masters of Texas are companion Zach Haston, past TIM of Arlington 314, and companion Casey Maxwell, past TIM of Port Neches 413. Preeminent Governor, is there anything you want to leave the viewers with or say to the candidates? No. Okay.
Just appreciate them being here. Thank you for making yourselves available and for your past service. We love each and every one of you guys. We love everybody on this side of the room. We're all brothers, and that's what makes our organization an organization. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Brother. And folks, that concludes tonight's broadcast from Trinity York Rite College. Thanks for joining us online, and thank you guys for being here, and thank you guys for being here. Greatly appreciate it.